What is up, sports geeks? It's your host, Josh, here back with another episode, joined by Alec, as always, for more fantasy football content. And last week, it was a confusing week, right? Pickens and Ladd both had great weeks. And then we had the RB1 and the wide receiver one for a team that had 440 yards of total offense, and neither one of them was fantasy relevant. So the Cleveland Browns had 395 passing yards, and their wide receiver one had 47. So I think it was one of those that we had the right read, wrong week, realistically.
Yep.
And it stinks, but we were just barely slightly below projection, even with that, due to some good reads on McConkey and on Pickens. We're back here with with five more rather this week.
Yep.
I'm not going to force six. We have 5 picks here, and we're going to get right into it. Real quick, though, YouTube's telling me that over 96% of you guys are not subscribed. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. It's easy. And other than that, over to you for your first one here, Alec.
Yeah, so my first one's going to be Jauan Jennings for the 49ers. He's had 11 targets the last 2 weeks. I really like him without Ayuk. He's basically playing that Ayuk role. Kyle Shanahan this past week said he's playing their X receiver. It was his first week playing that. He had 11 targets. He's actually really good.
Yeah.
Now this is also dependent. Brock Purdy has a sore right shoulder. I think he's going to play. Even if he doesn't play, the offense is good enough. Just the play calling is good enough where he's going to get his targets.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, 11 targets, 10 catches.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're drawing like a Cedric Tillman game, not to bring up sore topic, with 8 targets and 3 catches. It's not like he's doing that. He's 11 targets, 10 catches. He's efficient on his targets. And I think even the one target in which he didn't catch, I'm pretty sure was an overthrow by Purdy. I remember watching that. So I love Jennings here. As soon as, with Ayuk being out, I think Jennings is kind of one of those where it's like you're starting him until he burns you, because he's in such a great spot. The offense is great. Shanahan's going to scheme people open. No, I'm right there with you. I love Jennings this week.
Yeah, it's not 10 plus targets in a Bryce Young led offense. This is like 10 plus targets in like a legitimate, like a top 5 offense.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm going to go to an offense that's led by somebody that I'm not as high on, Arthur Smith, but Najee Harris is somebody that is my first start here. I think Najee Harris, it's on Thursday Night Football up against Cleveland here, and he's projected 9.6 here. I think he's going to go for in that 12 range. Realistically, looking at his last couple weeks, he's gone 20 plus touches in all 4 weeks, in all of his last 4 weeks. And since Russell Wilson has taken over the starting job, he's actually seen an increase in efficiency. And I just don't think that this Cleveland Browns defense is good at stopping anything right now. Myles Garrett's a stud. Don't get me wrong. You're without Zadarius Smith. They just let Taysom Hill run for 137 yards on him on 7 carries. Not even mentioning Alvin Kamara also averaged over 4 yards a carry. So I think that when you put those things together, and then it's a Thursday Night Football, which are normally scrappy, and it's supposed to be 44 degrees and raining, Najee Harris is set up for 20, maybe even 25 carries in this game. And if you're giving me 25 carries against the Browns defense the way that they're playing right now, I think Najee's probably going to find the end zone. And realistically, even the receiving upside that he has, I think, is enough that if he doesn't find the end zone, I still like him to crack 10 points here at least.
Yeah. For him to crack 10 points this week, it's almost like I don't want to say it's a lock, but I really like that this week. I really like Najee this week, even if it is on a Thursday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I am going to I'm going to throw my second one in here too, and it's going to be I'm going to stay at the heart of Ladd McConkey. Last week had a good week up against Cincinnati, rough secondary. They've been getting beat, and we saw him torch them, right? Goes for 123 yards. He had a lot of yards on the last drive there, not to rub that salt in the wound for you as a Bengals fan, but had 2 good catches, I think 27 and a 25-yarder on that final drive. Great week from him. He also had several ones that Herbert missed him on, which is not going to happen. Herbert is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, especially on the run. And there was 1 or 2 that he missed McConkey on that was going to be at least 15. So they're starting to develop a little bit more chemistry. And also you're in a matchup here, Monday Night Football up against Baltimore. Baltimore defends the run pretty well. They also score a lot of points, in which I think that this Chargers offense is going to throw the ball a little bit more. Last week we saw it, right? They started to run the ball, but then they were like, we can torch this Bengals team through the air. That's what we're going to do. And Ladd was a beneficiary of that. I think it's going to be very similar this week.
Yeah, no, I love Ladd this week. It's a primetime game. I like when my guy's playing a primetime game. It just kind of makes it feel like a little more exciting. I kind of am a little more involved than if there's 10 games in the 1 o'clock window and it kind of just skates by. But no, I love Ladd this week. The Baltimore Ravens, other than the Steelers, everybody else has been torching them. And we saw how good Justin Herbert was last week. And Ladd is, I don't want to say easily, but he's probably easily the best wide receiver on this team right now.
Yeah. And he's every game establishing himself in separating that gap more and more, I think.
Yep.
And the other thing, Steelers did not torch him at all, but their wide receiver 1 put up 8 for 89. And we had him last week, right? In Pickens. Yep. So they can't cover anything right now. This Baltimore secondary can't, but they're defending the run at a fairly efficient rate. Last week against Warren and Najee, over 25 carries, less than 4 yards a carry.
Yep.
So they're defending the run at a fairly good clip. And that's a good rushing attack that have been running over a lot of teams. You're defending the run, which is the Chargers go for, their primary, focus, but you can't defend the pass. I think McConkey's set up for an absolutely massive week here.
Yep. And say they're playing on Monday night, right?
Mm-hmm.
So say you need, 18 points. Maybe Ladd can pull one out for you on Monday night. It's a little more fun. Keeps you a little more engaged with fantasy when somebody pulls out one for you on Monday night.
Yeah, no, real quick, by the way, I had just a really quick story. I had Nico Collins last night, needed him and Dalton Schultz to put up 39 to win the league, which is a ton. But in this league, you get bonuses for 40-plus yard reception, 40-plus yard touchdown. The opening play would have been a 19-yard play.
Illegal man downfield.
Yep, 19-point play is what it would have been. So I would have it would have been 14 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock, and I would have needed 20 points out of them, which is totally possible, but not. And they probably would have got it anyways. But that's my quick story. You can go ahead with your second player.
That's funny. Yeah, that's I had Nico Collins in a league, and I almost lost the league because he ended with 4 catches for 50 yards or something like that after that. So yeah, no, it sucked. But okay, so my second person and my last person is Tyrone Tracy this week. They're playing Tampa Bay. I really just like this matchup. Tampa Bay has not been good fantasy points. Like they're giving up, I think, the fifth most fantasy points against running backs this year. I think Tyrone Tracy could go crazy this week. And the reason I think this is if they're going to score, it's either him or Neighbors. I mean, there's really nobody else. Tommy Cutlets is getting the start. Potentially 4, 5, 6 targets this week. I think Tyrone Tracy is a great flex play this week. I really do. Don't know if the game script's going to be the best, but what I do know is all of the touches are going to go to Tyrone Tracy. Yeah, so if Tyrone Tracy gets the 18 to 20 touches a week, especially this week against a Tampa Bay defense that has been bottom five in defending fantasy running backs, I'm gonna start him every week.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the touches, how the game script, how it might not be in his favor, which actually leads into my final player. But real quick, it doesn't lead into his favor for rushing, but I think for receiving upside, especially if you're in a PPR league, if you have a quarterback that's not a good quarterback, that is not an experienced quarterback, that's not somebody that can go chase a game, but they have to go chase a game, it normally results in an insane amount of dump offs to your running back. And so in a PPR format, Tyrone Tracy could be looking at 5 to 7 catches this week, in which maybe he only has 50 to 60 rushing yards and no rushing touchdown, but you throw on 5 catches for 25 yards, even if they're not efficient at all, and you have a good week. So
yeah, the floor is very high this week, I feel like, for Tyrone Tracy, just on the PPR receptions alone.
Yes, absolutely. I'm right there with you for that. But I said tying into my third player, and in the fifth and final player of the show today, I'm going Bucky Irving here. So I was debating between Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, and I'm looking at this matchup, and I was thinking, what do I like? I like running backs going against the Giants' rushing defense. And Bucky Irving has been out-touching Rachaad White in the rushing attack. And Rachaad White has slightly been out-touching him in the passing attack. But I don't think this is a game in which they're going to be leaned on in the passing attack. I think this is a game where the Giants' rushing defense stinks. Chuba Hubbard just ran all over them. 2 weeks ago, right? Before they go into their bye week, Chuba Hubbard runs all over them. I think for 130 and a touchdown.
Yeah, I believe so.
So, I mean, there's no part of me that's looking at this and saying, "Oh yeah, I think that that the receiving upside is what I'm really looking for against this Giants defense." I think it's the rushing upside. And Bucky Irving has started to take over this role. He still has the receiving upside, don't get me wrong, but I think Bucky Irving is somebody that I'm going to start this week in one of my leagues that I have him. And realistically, you start to get some bye weeks in here, and Bucky Irving is a perfect fill and play here because I could see him putting 80 to 100 yards and a touchdown up on the ground, and you don't even need a single catch out of him for him to be relevant.
No, I love Bucky Irving, especially, with the bye weeks. It's a heavy bye week this week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have Bucky Irving on your bench, he could be I don't want to go as far as saying RB1, but he could be your RB2 this week for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he could be RB1. I mean, realistically, if you drafted James Cook as your RB1, and if you had James Cook and ETN or James Cook and Kamara or Bijan and not Bijan and Brees, looking at the running backs that are out this week, you have Bijan, James Cook, Chase Brown, ETN, Kamara, Brees Hall. All of those guys are starters for you. I mean, maybe not ETN with how he's been playing, but everybody's a starter. So throwing somebody in like Bucky Irving in a week that really lines up well to be playing against a defense that's bottom 5 in the NFL as far as rushing yards per carry, rushing yards per game in the New York Giants. I think this is just it's setting up for a perfect week here.
No, I definitely agree. I love Bucky this week, especially even with Rachaad White. Just the rushing share for Bucky Irving is definitely kind of makes me want to lean towards him.
Yeah, and it's been the pendulum has been shifting too, right?
Yep.
Beginning of the season was all Rachaad White, obviously, sprinkling and Bucky. Bucky had a fumble, he goes back a little bit, right? It started to swing back towards Bucky, and I think deservingly so. He's been spectacular. Coming out of Oregon, I think the question mark was, is he going to be big enough for the NFL? He is, and we don't have to worry about his speed because he's plenty fast.
Also, I believe he's top 5 in broken tackle rate.
Is he really?
He's unbelievable at breaking tackles, and that's backed up by statistics. So,
not bad then for your lightning fast running back who you are the only concern about coming out of college was, is he big enough? And he's top 5 in the league in broken tackle percentage.
Yep.
Yeah, not bad. But okay, so those are our 5 guys here, though. We have Najee Harris against the Cleveland Browns on Thursday Night Football. We have Ladd McConkey against the Baltimore on Monday Night Football. I have 2 prime timers here. And then we have Jauan Jennings against Green Bay. We have Tyrone Tracy against Tampa Bay in that same game. Then we also have Bucky Irving against the Giants. Last 2 weeks, Tyrone Tracy screwed us 2 weeks ago by the fumble, put us below the projection. Last week, we were barely below the projection as well with some really unlucky reads, right reads, wrong weeks. This week's, I think, shaping up to be a good one. We have 5 players. I feel confident about a 4 for 5 here, but we'll see how it goes. But other than this, though, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.